Hey everyone, you've got John the Airgun guy and Lou
The Honey Badger.
here today with a couple of new guns for 2023. They've been out for a little while now. People have been playing with them. We figured that we were going to do a little bit of an in-depth go over the guns, take them apart a little bit, talk about some of the internals, how they function, and do some comparisons since we have them both in hand at the moment. So if you take a look here, we got the Evanix GK1.
No, the Evanix Viper.
Oh, the Evanix Viper.
Yeah, this is the Huben GK1.
Not the Evanix?
No,
GK1?
you have the Evanix. I have the
Huben
GK1.
on the right, Evanix on the left, Viper, and GK1. So you'll notice that both of the guns, fairly similar. They, let's do a size comparison. And what do you guys there in the audience? What do you guys think of the size of these? How do they compare? Well, let's do a side by side or an up and down or however we're gonna do this. Let me see this one over here. There you go. So if we take a look at them this way, it kind of looks like the Huben is a bigger gun. If we take a look at them this way, I bet you it looks like the Viper is a bigger gun. If we actually put them right in back of each other, they're basically the same size. The Huben has a little bit longer barrel to it, but they're really basically the same size gun. The way the design is done on the Huben, it makes it look like it's skinnier up and down. The design on the Evanix looks a little bit squarer, blockier, but basically the same size gun. And they've got similar features. They're both semi-automatics. Lou, if you can unscrew the end cap a little bit, they both have half-20 adapters for airgun silencers. So
This adapter's on a little tight.
yeah, we don't have to take it off all the way, but they both have adapters. The Evanix, everyone knows, they very handily came with the threaded barrel right from the factory. The Huben, we've had a little bit of controversy. They got the guns out as fast as they could, but they didn't have the adapter with the half-20 thread. So first guns came out, didn't have it. Second run of guns coming out were supposed to have it. They didn't get the parts made. So we had a friend of ours make up an adapter, so we now have threaded adapters for all of our guns, and we can silence them. Filling the guns, Viper's really kind of cool. It's got the male quick disconnect Foster. Originally, it comes down in front of the trigger guard, but as you can see, we've moved ours. It can fit right in on the end of the tank. It can fit in front of the trigger guard. It can go where the gauge is. The gauge can actually go in all these places too. So depending on how you shoot, if you want to put this in a holster and want the side to be smooth, you can stick the gauge underneath by the trigger guard or on the end of the tank. If you don't want it there because you're not going to holster it, but you want it handy to see the gauge, put it right there on the side. So kind of neat, you can move it around.
Unfortunately, with the Huben GK1, it's not as modular. Your gauge is on the side of the pistol, right near the mag release lever, but you can't move it. It's there, it's not going anywhere. Additionally, with the Huben GK1, you need the Huben fill probe, which goes in right at the back side of the tank, right near the trigger guard here. We've had customers ask us about where the fill probe is supposed to go. The manual, which you should always read your manual for every pistol, rifle, anything you pick up from us.
Before you start using it,
Preferably, yes.
everybody's really excited to get these new toys, but
To bring them home and
take some
using them.
time, read the manual before you start using it. It will help you out a lot and save for some unhappiness, which
Yes.
Lou will go over.
Yes. the pictures inside of the manual just have an arrow pointing up into this area. They don't have it actually going to where the fill probe is supposed to slide in. The other great thing is this fill probe can slide in from either side to fill the pistol. It doesn't need to be one side or the other. So that's something that's nice about it. Your safety is located right here by your thumb. If you're a righty, if you're a lefty, well, you're gonna have to hit it with your pointer finger or use your right hand to disable the safety.
And as much as we despise fill probes, the fill probe gives you a very nice clean line on the gun.
It really does.
Once it's removed, there's nothing sticking out, so when you do try to holster it or whatever you're doing with it, there's nothing to get snagged on. So they do have their advantage. One thing is if you let me borrow that fill probe for a second.
Sure.
So I borrowed the fill probe and
Dang it.
oh, I dropped it. How are we gonna fill the gun? Little problem. You need your fill probe.
That's an issue.
Viper, nice and handy. It's screwed into the gun. It isn't gonna fall off. It's screwed in there and it's under pressure. It's always gonna be there. So fill probes, as much as we despise them, they give real clean lines, but you can lose them. Not so good.
Not so good.
Another thing that we kind of cool in the action, we cock the Viper, take out the magazine, do whatever we need to do with it, and it's like we're going out hunting. I'm gonna stick this in my pocket, and
You dropped your mag.
did you see my mag? We're going out hunting, and then I don't got a mag in here. How am I gonna shoot my gun?
Well, you're not. But you don't have that problem with the GK1. The GK1 has an internal magazine that is integral to the actual design of the pistol. There's no way to drop this magazine. However, you do have to lift the mag release lever in order to spin this. Now, most people get the pistol loaded up, which is great. There's a feed tray right here on the side that you slide the round into, and it's quite easy to do so. Simply hold the pistol with the mag release lever up and grab your round, head in first and slide.
And actually what Lou's doing is you put the pellet in a little bit sideways and then turn it into the magazine. A lot of people try to put it straight into the magazine, and it's a little bit hard to do it that way. The sideways and turn technique works real easy.
So the sideways is hold it like this, get it started, and then it just slides in very easily. Downside, unloading the mag, if you don't shoot all of it all at once, can be a little bit tough. And also, if you need to unload it for any reason, what's great is it goes all the way around the inside here, which is awesome. The other issue, and one issue that we are seeing a lot of already, is this lever cannot just be snapped down. The spring that is inside of this lever, this mag release lever, is very strong. So when you first get it, and even after you've had it for a while, you need to slowly let the lever back into place. Don't just let it snap, because these levers will break off, and then you have to purchase a new lever, which is a pain in the neck for you, and we don't have an infinite supply at this time.
So it is kind of an Achilles heel.
It is.
The rifles have been designed this way since 2015. People with the rifles haven't been having as much problems. They tend to read the manuals because they're not as excited as a rifle as they are with the pistol. But we've been seeing with the pistol, a lot of people are just snapping that mag release lever down, and it's not happy. It does break. Not too hard to replace. We do have stock of them at the moment. But yeah, it says right in the manual, page whatever, when you're filling, make sure you lower the lever down, because that is known to snap. It's not a material defect, design defect. It's just the fact of there is a very strong spring there for everything to work, and you do need to easily lower the lever down. So please try to do that. Let's see, over here on the Viper. What are we going to talk about the Viper now? Let's talk about how the Viper works, because both of these guns are very different in the firing mechanism. the way they work. The Viper uses air to blow back the hammer. You can see we got a handy dandy window right in here, so we can see the hammer and we can see the sear, so we can see if it's engaged. The gun uses air from the tank to blow the hammer back, and it latches on to your sear and trigger mechanism. The Huben, on the other hand, is hammerless. They don't have this type of action. So let's take this one apart first. Let's see what this one looks like. I've already taken it apart once, so everything is going to be easy to remove. Start with the Picatinny rail up on top. This actually holds both of the halves together on the top. So you've got two flathead screws with a nice taper on there that helps center the pick rail where it's supposed to be.
And to remove those screws, you're going to need an Allen key in 2.5 millimeter.
Good call. Let's see, what is this one? 3 millimeter. Need this one for in front of the trigger. Take the whole handle mechanism off. So 3 millimeter in the front, and I always use a short Allen to get this started in the back, which I believe is also 2.5. What is this one? 2.5. Ball end, so you can get in at an angle. Can't really get in straight because of the handles there. So get in an angle with a ball end, unscrew this, and then your whole handle comes right off. This gives you access to the only two screws that really hold the two halves together. So we'll go back to our 2.5, back this one off, back this one off, and then your two halves should, fairly easy, twist and pull and come off. So you see your barrel comes out. You have no air on this side of the gun. I didn't degas this. We still have air pressure in here. So you can actually just switch out the whole front section of the gun if you need to. What we are going to do is degas this. We've got our Allen key down here. Yep. And can I have your Allen keys, your adjustable set over there, the flip set? I forgot to bring a big Allen wrench.
Oops.
So I believe this takes a 6.
I believe it is a 6, yes.
So, oh, no, not a 6, a 5.
It might even be a 4.
It is a 5.
It is a 5.
So we're going to open up this Allen, just a set screw in there on a pressure seal. We'll let it leak out. I always take our little valve here and I push this down, and when it goes in, that's basically your firing mechanism. Once it goes in, you're out of air. Remember to tighten this back up again, because when you go to fill it, it'll leak out. Now the thing that's cool, this is your whole firing valve. So we unscrew this, no tools needed. And that's all that's in here. You've got your spring, you've got your seal for your firing valve, it's screwed on with a nut, and that's how this all works. So what happens is, when the hammer comes in, it's around this, it pushes this in, blast of air goes up and through the barrel, and this tube is also hollow, so it sends a blast of air back into your hammer to push your hammer and hammer spring back. So this is why the gun is reliant on a pellet and the back pressure in the barrel. Because if you shoot this without anything in it, this air easily comes up and out the barrel. You don't have as much pressure shooting back on your hammer, and sometimes it doesn't fully reset. So if you have a pellet in the barrel, this has full back pressure, you get full pressure here, the gun functions reliably. It's also, when you get down to a low pressure setting, there's not enough air pressure when it's going to shoot the pellet out you don't have enough air pressure when you're going to set the hammer back, and it will go back and slide forward and go back and slide forward until it settles out. So that's where we talk about the burping and why the burping happens. Low pressure or not enough back pressure. So we'll get this guy put back together again. Just screws right back in. You're gonna see a couple of dimples. Let's see, we've got the, your barrel side is over here. You've got your transfer port there. You've got some dimples on the bottom that are gonna line up with the front half of the gun. Make sure those are straight up and down. Stick the barrel back into the top tank. That shroud is actually a top tank. Carefully put this in. Slide your halves together, give a little bit of twist to get past the O-rings. Now what you want to do is remove one of your set screws. You want to make sure you can look inside and see that you're on the dimple on the valve housing. So it looks like we're in a good position, so I'm going to tighten down the first set screw, put the second one in. We'll get this guy tightened down. So that's holding your valve into the back half of the gun. We put our Picatinny rail with sight back on the top. Same tool, the 2.5. I tend to put them in snug, get them both in there. Tighten up the front one, tighten up the rear one. The taper on the flathead screw should get this right back in position where it needs to be. And then we could just put the receiver and grip on. Sometimes your safety will get in the way. Just move that a little bit. It'll drop down. Tighten that one up. Use your ball end to get this flathead most of the way in, and smaller Allen key to do your final tighten. So, gun's all back together. What else do we want to talk about here? This one you actually have to cock back. It is a semi-auto, but you started by cocking it. You can also end your day by holding this back, pulling the trigger, and decocking it so it doesn't shoot. Whereas on the Huben, there is no decocking it. It's semi-auto all the time. Magazine is in there. Some people have asked, well, could this possibly be dangerous if it's semi-auto and you can't decock it? Well, there's one solution. Leave a couple of chambers empty.
Yep.
When you're done, you can, if for some reason you want to leave ammo in the magazine, we don't ever recommend that, but
really don't recommend
you can leave a couple of the first chambers empty, so that if somebody did pick up the gun and fire it, you're going to fire on an empty chamber. Leave 2 or 3 empty, they're going to have to fire a few times before anything's going to start coming out. Okay. But it is fairly easy to get your pellets back out of the Huben. Small Allen wrench, we'll show in a minute, we'll pop a few out.
So you all remembered that I loaded it. I actually unloaded it while John was doing portions of his talk, but we'll talk about how to unload the Huben. It is a little bit of a procedure. Line up your round with the feed gate. Take a small Allen wrench, and what you've got to do is slide the Allen wrench into the front while also pushing down on the feed gate to keep it clear of where the pellet is being extracted from. And then it just slides right out. So once again,
just be careful, don't put too much pressure on the feed gate.
Right.
It is a hard plastic. You barely have to move it away from the back of the pellet so that it can come out.
gentle pressure, and then I'm using a small micro flathead screwdriver to just push it out so that the pellet is freeing away.
So it really isn't that bad to unload it.
No, it's very simple. Tedious at times, but very simple.
Most of the times we find that people shoot their guns and they shoot them until they're empty and they don't have to unload them.
Yep.
So,
which is nice. Degassing this one, on the other hand, is not as simple as degassing the GK1. There's not one bolt that needs to come out. There are 3. So you'll need to take this top bolt, this top screw out, and it is I believe it's a number 2 Allen key, 2mm Allen key, and you just drop, and then you spin this out. Now, I've already taken this apart today and degassed the gun once, but I made sure I refilled it in time for the video. So you get that taken out, and then on the back, there are 2 bolts right here and right here. Those are a number 4. Or a 4mm Allen. Forgive me. So, use our 4mm Allen, keep the pistol pointed in a safe direction. 1,000,001 different methods for doing this.
$1,000,001.
1,000,001. Everybody has their own way that they use tools. Heck, if it was really left up to me, I'd have one of those tiny little electric screw guns and I'd just,
zip it out.
Not all of us can make the big bucks. All right. So that gets your back plate free. Gently release the back plate and you'll see there's a spring in there. So in order to degas the gun, take the spring out. Set it off to the side. You'll notice I have a piece of paper towel there because the spring is usually covered in one form of grease or another.
One thing you want to make sure is in there is that bumper.
Yeah, there is a rubber bumper on the inside that houses the spring itself. You do not want to lose that rubber bumper.
Yeah, very important to keep the rubber bumper in.
Extremely important to keep the rubber bumper in. Because all of your trigger mechanisms are actually located behind that rubber bumper and where that spring is located. So what you do, make sure when you're done taking the spring out, you put that cover plate back on and screw it down. Do not leave it loose. If you leave it loose,
things can break.
Things can break.
Because what we're actually going to do is we're going to fire the gun.
Yep.
And firing it without that spring in place is going to let the valve stick open and it's going to dump all the air out the barrel. A lot of times on the rifle, we get calls and people are all in a panic that they've adjusted for super amounts of power and they've shot the gun and it dumps all of its air.
Yep.
Well, we dump the air similar ways when we're doing service on it. Not a problem with the gun. Didn't break anything. If you're shooting, all you gotta do is adjust your regulators down and reset it, fill it back up with air, and it should be fine.
Yep.
So what's happened in the rifles is you've overwhelmed the gun with way too much power, and it holds the mechanism open.
Yes.
And doesn't allow that spring to close it, and it stays open. We deliberately pull out the spring,
and
we're going to fire.
Point the gun in a safe direction.
Cover the ears.
Cover the ears. Fire in the hole.
And now it's degassing.
The air is traveling right out through the barrel. And because of the size of the tank, it only takes about 30 seconds, maybe a minute at most, depending on how full you have the pistol. You will notice that the air tank is going to get cool. That is a common occurrence. While the air is escaping, the tank is being drained of the air. Chemical reactions are a thing, so the air tank will get cool.
When you fill your tank with high pressure air, it gets hot. When you drain it quickly of high pressure air,
it gets cold.
So now what you want to do, now you can take and work on the gun if there's anything to work on. There's
Every time.
that last bit of air does spurt out a bit. You might also notice that, I don't think we showed it, but when you do release the air,
Right, when you release
your magazines, your safety isn't going to go down.
Isn't going to actuate. It won't go down, and that's fairly simple to fix. Even though it's off of safe, there's no air inside of this pistol. So we can take the screws back out that we took out before, remove your cap plate, grab your spring. I don't think there's a way that it actually is designed to go in one specific way. You just kinda
Symmetrical spring, just stick her back in.
Stick her back in, put your cover plate back on. Now, hold the cover plate down with a finger and get your screws started. Even with the rifles though, that sudden spurt startles me. And there's,
You know it's coming.
you know it's coming, and it doesn't matter. It makes me jump every time. This is why I don't go to haunted houses or horror movies. So. Jump scaring the honey badger, not a great idea. Did you jump? Please tell me you jumped.
I don't know. We'll have to look at the video, see if I jumped. All right, now you get the spring back in
Right,
so that the sight pushes up.
Underneath this sight, there is a tiny little spring, okay? It fell out because I left everything loose on it while I was degassing the rifle. So now what we have to do is make sure the spring, there's a little divot hole down in here. I don't know if we can see that or not. I'm hoping we can. The spring goes inside of that little divot hole. Grease on my fingers. This would be a lot easier because the spring wouldn't want to stick to my fingers. There we go.
Actually lower the sight down a little bit, and then you might be able to use your small screwdriver to push it back. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling to get these springs back in. Under pressure. Whoops!
Well, the spring is in, it's all the way down. Drop our screw back in.
Get you an air fill tank.
Thank you. Would you mind reaching under the table and grab the fill probe where you threw it on the floor?
Did I throw it on the floor?
Yes, you did.
Oh
It's towards the
man, I
front of
lost it in the woods.
towards the front of the table there. There we go. That's all back together. And we can take our fill probe. There's a quick disconnect on the end of the fill probe. Just like that. Tank. I'm gonna do the smart thing and flip the pistol over so I can actually see the air gauge. Slide your fill probe in.
Now the one thing to notice is when you get up to 10 bar, your magazine actuates.
Yep.
So you don't ever want to shoot low enough to get down to there because your magazine will stop working. We always recommend you try to shoot in the top 1,000 PSI of your high pressure air guns. The Huben can actually fill to 5,000 PSI, and we recommend you don't shoot below 2,500 PSI. So, which is on the gauge on this thing is gonna be about 15 bar, I believe.
So the gauge is actually measured in MPa.
Or MPA, 15
So 15 MPa
would be 150 bar.
bar.
So the metric measurements of things. So that one's refilled. Safety should go on now because the mechanism's back in place.
Yep. It actually could have turned the safety on as soon as I got the screws back in and the spring back in, and gave it a little push.
Yep.
Once I got everything reseated, that safety will immediately go back on because everything on the internals is now pushed where it needs to be.
So let's get the Viper filled back up again. Attach onto our quick disconnect here. Now this one, let's see how this goes. We're going to get
about 20 MPa, so.
We're going to start the fill, and it's leaking out the barrel. So what you got to do is cock the gun either a little bit or all the way. You're going to take the hammer spring and hammer spring pressure off of your firing valve. It was being held open, so I couldn't get it started with air. Now that it's open, I'd fill it right back up again, not a problem. So this one measures in bar, fill to 250 bar. We don't want to shoot typically below 150 bar. So high pressure air gun, shoot in the high pressure air zone. Disconnect. This gun is ready to fire. So
you're gonna decock and
decock. Let's see.
You already showed how to decock.
We showed how to decock. I will decock it again just for safety reasons. Another thing we should mention on the Viper, actually both the guns, adjustments. But let's hold this for the next video. We've been here for a little while. Let's take a break and watch the next video for adjustments on both guns.
Absolutely.